Hi, it's a pleasure to have you again for another episode of our book reflection on the channel. Our attention for today is on chapter 4 of Dr. Myles Munroe's book, The Principles and Power of Vision. The Principles and Power of Vision. This chapter is the first of part 2 of the book. So we are done with part 1 of the book, which laid the foundation. We've looked at vision, the key to fulfilling your life's purpose. We've looked at the source of vision, which was from chapter 2. And then we've looked at chapter 3, overcoming obstacles to vision. So chapter 4 begins a set of 12 principles that the book points out. And the first principle is our focus for today. And the principle is to be directed by a clear vision. So chapter 4 is on the theme, be directed by a clear vision. And that is the first principle that we'll be examining. Now, Dr. Myles begins the chapter with a quote: to fulfill your vision, you must have a clear guiding purpose for your life. And this is something that I believe we've established over the course of the previous episodes. Now, it says the first principle of vision is that you must have a clear guiding purpose for your life. Every effective leader or group of people in history has had one thing in common. They were directed by a clear vision. Remember that Moses, Joshua, David, and Nehemiah each had visions that drove them and motivated their actions. The first thing that God gave Abraham was a specific vision. He showed him the promised land and said, that's your vision. You are going to take your offerings there. And so the first key principle is helping us to understand that for us to be fruitful, for us to be productive, for us to be able to succeed in whatever that we do, we must have a vision that is guiding us. And that vision has to be very clear. It has to be very clear, because if that vision isn't clear, nobody will be able to walk with it or move with it. And Habakkuk chapter 2, the verse 2 and 3 helps us to establish that particular fact. Habakkuk chapter 2 from the verse 2 and 3. It says that, then the Lord said to me, write my answer plainly on tablets, so that a runner can carry the correct message to others. Verse 3, this vision is for a future time. It describes the end and it will be fulfilled. If it seems slow in coming, wait patiently, for it will surely take place. It will not be delayed. And so if you have a clear vision for your life, number one, what it does is that it helps you to know where you are going. And so it says that it describes the end and it will be fulfilled. When I know exactly where I am going, I can picture what the future looks like, and it is plain to me. It helps me to know how to get there, when to get there, why I should get there, and all the things that can help me to stay on track. And number two, it helps me not to give up, because although it may seem slow, because the vision is very clear, I will be able to stand and wait until it is fulfilled. And so there has to be a clear vision for your life so that you will be able to have a life that is purposeful and fruitful. And Dr. Myles says that you personally, as an individual, must have your own guiding life vision. This vision must be absolutely clear to you, because otherwise you will have nothing to aim at and you will achieve nothing. And it's very important that as we go on, we get to ask ourselves the questions, the key questions, the important questions that will help us to see whether or not we even know what our life's vision is. It is very important. And it says that, as I wrote earlier, when you know and understand what you were born to accomplish, that is purpose. So the reason why I am here, what God has placed in me, the abilities that he has placed in me, which we call your potential. When you know what those potentials are supposed to do, you then say that you are pursuing purpose. And so purpose is what you have been designed to do. what I was created to do. Now, if I can picture how that abilities I have, those abilities I have, and all the things that I can do by the fact that God has deposited in me potential, if I can see the end of how all of these things can play out, from Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 3, it says that this vision is for a future time. It describes the end and it will be fulfilled. If I can picture the end, if I can have that clear insight into how my end will be, then that is vision. So vision, it says that is when you can see it in your mind's eye by faith and begin to imagine it. So it says when you can see it, what you can accomplish, what you are born to do or were born to do, if you can see it with your mind's eye by faith, and you can begin to imagine it, imagine how at the end of the day you are, helping many people to discover themselves and their God-given abilities, how you are, fulfilling a certain, important obligation in very specific areas of society. If you can picture it in your mind's eye, if you can begin to imagine it, then that is vision. So it says that you cannot contribute to God's greater purpose if you don't know your personal vision. If you have no sense of focus, then you will drift along. And Jesus, as our perfect example, understood what he came on earth to accomplish. So right from the beginning of his life on earth, he could picture the end. The outcome of his life was clear to him. And that is why he was able to say, even at a very young age, in Luke 2:49, that I must be about my Father's business. And this was his response to his mother, Mary, who had been looking for Jesus, because they got home after they had gone on a trip. They got home and this boy was not with them. And so they had to go back looking for him. And when they asked him why he put them through that, trouble of having to look for him, he answered in the verse 49 of Luke 2. But why did you need to search? He asked. Didn't you know that I must be in my Father's house? Didn't you know that I must be about my Father's business, according to the KJV? So he had a certain guiding vision for his life. And that vision was what could be if he was able to die for the sins of men and the glory that awaits him in heaven. And so there were many things that he could have been doing when he came on earth. He could have been buoyed by the fact that he is the Son of God, and all that. But the Bible helps us to understand that though he was God, he did not grab onto that privilege of being equal to God. No, he humbled himself. And that is because he had a certain vision that was guiding his life. The ultimate goal for his coming, he came to pursue purpose, and he imagined and could see with his mind's eye the many millions of people that will come to salvation if he was able to fulfill purpose on it. So if you don't have a clear purpose for your life, and you cannot be able to see the end goal with your mind's eye by faith and imagination, then you will not be a person of vision. So there's purpose why you are here, and there's vision how you are able to see the end from the beginning or from now. Now, it says that you must realize that when you set your mind on what you want to do, all the other business of the world will try to get in the way of it. Having a clear guiding purpose will enable you to stay on track when you are tempted to be distracted by lesser or non-essential things. So there were many things that Jesus could have been doing, but his focus was on how he can grow, as it were. If you read the Luke chapter 2, the verse 52, Jesus grew in wisdom and in stature and in favor with God and men. That was the whole idea behind him spending time in the house of his father, so that he will be able to grow, to get groomed for the major task that was ahead of him. And there were many things that could have distracted him as a young boy. He could, spend time playing, as a child. There are many, many distractions, but because at even such a young age, he knew where he was heading to, the distractions could not dissuade him or take him away from the path to purpose. Now, a sub-theme of the chapter says the what and the why of existence. And Dr. Myles shares an account of what happened during his undergraduate degree, one of his undergraduate degrees. So he says that one of my undergraduate degrees is in education, and I had to take a course in biology for a full year as part of my degree requirements. I really enjoyed that course because it was extremely detailed. We studied the neurological and circulatory systems of the human body, the bone structure, the brain cells, and all the intricacies of how the body works. At the end of the class, I received an A. I was very proud of myself, yet while I was looking at my grade, boasting to myself about what a good job I had done and how much I had learned about the human body, a question burst into my mind. Now that you know what the human body is, do you know why it is? Now that you know what the human body is, do you know why it is? And that conclusion he came to is very important, and which is education can give us knowledge, but education can give us knowledge, but it can't always give us reasons. And so there are many of us, I believe we can, we can relate. There are courses you have taken, you believed, you did so well, you had an A, you had a good grade in it. But, at the end of the day, you realize that you went through it. Yes, you learned a lot of things, but you don't really appreciate or understand exactly why those things are present or why they happen. We know the what, and we are able to, reproduce the what's, but we don't really understand the whys of those things. And Dr. Myles says that he came to understand that one of the key things to having a fruitful and purposeful life is for you to know beyond the fact that you were born, why you were born. So why am I here? Yes, you are here. You know you are here. You know you belong to a certain family. You know that you are educated to a certain degree. But why are you educated to that degree? Why are you in this particular town at this moment? Why are you in this particular organization at this moment? So beyond knowing what you are at the moment, it is very important to understand why you are at this moment. So it says that it is more important to know why you were born than to know the fact that you were born. And if you don't know your reason for existence, you'll begin to experiment. You will begin to experiment with your life, and that can be a dangerous thing to do. Your life will be a trial and error, sort of life. And every person who comes along, you flow. Every event that comes, you flow. Every distraction will just take you off your track because you don't really understand why you are doing what you are doing or why you are here. And, when you take the life of children, babies, toddlers, you would understand that sometimes they may know what it is that they are holding, but they don't really understand why those things have been given to them or why those things are present. And so the child will know that this is a television set and they are watching TV. But you see, the reason behind the pictures they are seeing, what informs the images that are coming, may be lost on this child. And so if this child is watching, this toddler is watching the TV, and probably for some reason they go take some stone and they want to stone the person who wants to hurt their favorite character in the movie, you may be wondering, hey, like, if you are not careful, you will beat the hell out of that toddler or that baby. But the baby knows this is a TV, but does not really understand the essence of that TV and why it is functioning the way it is, and what goes into how these things, they are seeing on the movie comes out. There were some of us, when we're children, when we're kids, we thought that there were people in the TV set. The person speaking, the one who is reading the news, is actually in the TV set, because we lacked an understanding beyond what we were seeing. And as we grew, because of experiences and knowledge, we have become better. So it is very important that beyond knowing what is, you begin to dig into why it is. And Dr. Myles says that you must capture a meaning for your life. And that meaning is a clear vision for your existence. If you can capture what the end looks like, your life becomes a life of meaning. If you meet somebody who knows how the end will be for them, it is difficult to distract them. Whether God has revealed it to them by vision, or for their own understanding of how effort can lead to a certain outcome, you'd realize that no matter how difficult things get, these people persevere because they can see the end. They can see the end and what they can achieve. And so Dr. Myles has some 3 important questions for us. And he says that, let me ask you some difficult but necessary questions. Have you changed jobs several times in the last few years? Do you keep changing your major in college? Do you do one thing for a time and then go on to something else because you are bored or dissatisfied? If your answer to these or any of these is yes, he says that it means you lack vision. Because if there is a lack of vision, you will keep changing at every instance of dissatisfaction or boredom. Some people begin doing certain things, and because at a point I am no longer interested in it, they drop out of it, they stop doing it. But you see, it is not about comfort. It is not about it all being, about the passion and passion and passion. If you really understand why you are on a certain journey, even when you don't have the energy and the passion, the flame seems to be dying, you will continue to persevere. The footballer who knows the essence of a particular trophy that is at stake, even when they are tired, if they get any opportunity to score, you will see some energy burst. They would put their last energy on the line just to be able to win that trophy. I watch athletes, on the track, and recently I was watching one of the, I think, Olympic qualifiers, and it was one of the relay races, and one of the gentlemen, one of the athletes, I don't know if it's Jamaica. It should be Jamaica. I think the third person in the relay team at a point had a muzzle pool, and he was just close, almost he was just there to hand over the baton to this last person. And this last person, I think Blake is a very fast runner. You are confident that if I'm able to hand this baton to him, he would win as the race, more likely. But you see, he had a muzzle pool in just the moment before getting over to hand over the baton. But he tried his best. You could see although he felt the pain, he still tried to get close enough to hand over the baton. Unfortunately, the baton fell and Blake couldn't lay hold on to it. And that meant that, they were out of the race. But the point is that he put in some effort, despite the fact that he had suffered a certain, challenge or handicap. You could see that there was a certain test, there was a certain desire to still try and see if this thing can get onto the next person. And that is what a clear vision for your life can do, because you can see the end and the outcome of your life, and you know that it is worth every sweat, it is worth every effort, and it is worth every discomfort. Now, Dr. Myles helps us with a certain understanding from Nehemiah, and he equates the account of Nehemiah to understanding what a job is and what a vision is. And so when we look at the life of Nehemiah, who was serving under, the king of Persia. So reading from Nehemiah chapter 1, the verse 11, it helps us to understand that Nehemiah had a job as the cupbearer to Artaxerxes, king of Persia. And that was an important position because now he had to taste the king's wine all the time to be sure that it wasn't poisoned. And for somebody who is in such a position, serving the king and serving his royal guests, it was a very, important position in the king's palace. Now, it says that as prestigious as Nehemiah's occupation was, it was simply a job for him because his mind was occupied by something else. Now, Nehemiah was a descendant of one of the large number of Jews who had been carried away into captivity by the Babylonians. And long story short, there was a time where, there was this heaviness on his heart to go back and rebuild the ruined city of Jerusalem. The walls of Jerusalem had been destroyed. And when, Nehemiah got information or got news about how the walls of Jerusalem had been destroyed, he was filled with grief. So it says that when he heard that the wall of Jerusalem was broken down and that everything was in disarray, he sat down and wept. For some days he mourned and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. Nehemiah 1, the verse 4 helps us to reflect that. So you could see that although he was serving in the king's palace, he had a job, but there was something that was more important and more critical to him than the job that he was in. That was a heaviness on him. And that heaviness on him to see something change about the walls and the city of Jerusalem is what he was born to do. And that vision of seeing to a rebuilt Jerusalem kept him in discomfort until something was done. So Dr. Myles says here that your true work is what you were born to do. I like to think of Nehemiah's cupbearer job as his preliminary occupation or his pre-occupation, so before occupation, because he was born to fulfill another, much more important role. Your true work is what you were born to do. Your job is what you do until you are ready to fulfill your life's vision. God had placed in Nehemiah's heart a vision of rebuilding the wall. I had not told anyone yet what my God had put in my heart to do for Jerusalem. And this was Nehemiah in Nehemiah chapter 2 verse 12. So there was something that God had placed on his heart, and he could picture it in his mind's eye by faith and imagination. A wall that was rebuilt, a city that was now back on its feet. And that was something that laid heavy on his heart until one day in the morning, when he was before the king with wine again, the king noticed that there was something wrong. And that also tells you how diligent Nehemiah was. He was going about his job diligently, despite the fact that there was something even more important, which was what he was literally born to do, that was heavy on his heart. Although he had a vision that needed to be accomplished in line with his purpose for life, there was something he was already doing as his job that he still took serious. Because, as Dr. Myles helps us to understand, he knew that his job was not an end in itself, but a means to an end. And so through his job as, the cupbearer to the king of Persia, and the fact that he was diligent in his job, the king of Persia took interest in what was wrong with him and ended up being very supportive in Nehemiah's, attempt to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. And so we get to understand that in Nehemiah 2 verse 1, in the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when wine was brought for him, I took the wine and gave it to the king. I had not been sad in his presence before. So he was doing his job, he was diligent about it, and then today he comes still about doing his job as diligently as he has always, but there was something different today. He looked sad. And it says that the king asked him in the verse 2 of Nehemiah 2, why does your face look so sad? Why does your face look so sad when you are not ill? This can be nothing but sadness of heart. And that also tells you the king had been very observant of Nehemiah to the point of knowing that you are not sick, but there's something wrong. There's something wrong. So this point of you understanding what your job may be and how your vision is far more beyond your current job, your current employment, or what you do, is not for you to become lazy about your job, or not to take your job seriously, but it is for you to understand that even in your job, in whatever role you find yourself as an individual, you must be guided by the vision of your life, which can be something beyond what role you are playing currently. And Dr. Myles says in the chapter that when God gives you a vision and confirms it, nothing can stop it. If he tells you to build, start, invest, create, or manufacture something, then it will bother you deep inside, just like it bothered Nehemiah to the point where the king noticed it and said, this one is nothing but sadness of heart. And so he says that you will become depressed until you do it, until you fulfill what God brought you on the earth to fulfill. This is a sanctified depression. However, the kind that says, I won't be satisfied until I complete my vision, until I get to that end that I have seen with my mind's eye and I have imagined. And when the king asked Nehemiah the question, what do you want? Because he was a man who was clear on the end goal. He had imagined how the world should look like. He had a clear vision. He was able to give a specific answer. So it says in Nehemiah 2 verse 4, the king asked him, what is it you want? And Nehemiah responded in the verse 5, let the king send me to the city in Judah where my fathers are buried, so that I can rebuild it. He was specific on what he wanted because his vision for life was clear. Some of us do not know what we are about in life. We don't know what specific things God has set for us to be accomplishing or to accomplish in our time on earth. And so we get to a workplace and we don't know what we are about. We are in our education. We don't know where we are going in our decisions of life concerning family, concerning marriage, concerning a lot of things, our friendships, we are not making the right choices because there's no clear vision that is guiding our lives. As it were, anything goes, everybody goes, anywhere goes, and we are not getting to that destination because we are not specific on what we want because of a lack of a clear vision. So it says that Nehemiah knew his clear guiding vision. The vision was to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. Although I am a cupbearer, I'm more like, not of my own. I am serving under a king. I came in here as a slave. There is something that I have seen. And that end is to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. Yes, the resources, I may not have them now, but specifically, this is what I want to do. And so Nehemiah knew his clear guiding vision, and his plan was so specific that he was able to give the king a time frame for completing that rebuilding he wanted to go and do. You need to seriously ask yourself the same question. What is it that I want? Do you know what you really want out of life? And Dr. Myles says that some people just want to indulge in self-serving activities. Others think life begins at retirement and they miss out on practically their entire lives. Some people just want to own a house. Yes, it's fine to own a house. But at the end of the day, if you get a house, what's next? So there is more to life than the self-satisfying activities and possessions that we may get for ourselves. What is that one thing that the Lord has laid on your heart? That one thing that seems to bother you, and until you are able to get things done well in that particular area, you don't feel okay. So it says that in order to find your vision, you must be in touch with the values and priorities of the kingdom of God. Your vision should be something that lives on even after you are gone. Something that has greater lasting power than possessions. People's lives should be changed because of your vision. Because of my vision for life, the lives of young people should be changed. The lives of children should be changed. And that vision is what is keeping me going. It's very clear. And so even when you feel tired, if you get to a point where you feel like, giving up, you don't give up because you know that this is what the Lord wants me to do. There's a clear picture made some years ago. It's a clear direction that comes to you, and there's a burden on your heart to make sure that that outcome, that end goal, where you are supposed to demonstrate the excellence of the Lord to many young people and help them to become the best version of themselves, you have been able to achieve it. And beyond your time on earth, other generations will benefit because you were able to pursue your life's vision. You were able to pursue your life's vision. And Dr. Myles says, what do you want? The King of Kings is asking you this question today, and you must be able to give him an answer. Vision is the preferable future that you want for your life, and this vision has to be in line with God's purpose for your life. It is something that you see beyond yourself, beyond your self-gratification, and it is that thing that irritates you until it is done and done well for the benefit of not just you, but your community, for your nation, for generations, and that will bring glory to God. Vision is always pushing the envelope. It says it demands change by its very nature. And it is very important because, as in Nehemiah's case, many people don't realize that vision is active even when times are good and things are in a positive state. He may have been serving diligently in the house or in the royal, palace. He may not probably have much to worry about, but because his people back home were suffering, because they were in danger due to the walls that were broken, he couldn't sleep. things may be going right for you, but just by seeing the young children on the streets who are not, having any decent life for themselves, you are irritated in such a manner that you want to take your education seriously, you want to pursue your life goals seriously, so that you will be able to be a meaningful impact maker someday to help these children. That is what vision does. God may give us a vision that will shake us out of our comfort, so that we will, out of our comfort, discomfort ourselves for the benefit of others. And it says here that vision will always take you from good to better and from better to best. And that is where we would want to end today's episode.